Brought to you by Thomas Allgaier and Frinus, this edition highlights key LinkedIn posts on electrification and battery technology in weeks 16 and 17. Frinus is a B2B market research company that supports automotive suppliers with building feature-by-feature competitive intelligence that shows exactly how their product stacks up against the competition. You can find more info in the description.
Right, so welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we're cutting straight through the fluff to analyze the absolute top mobility and electrification trends.
Exactly. We're sourcing this strictly from professional insights shared across LinkedIn over the last couple of weeks. So if you're a professional in the mobility industry, this is your smart, fast-paced look at what's actually happening on the ground.
Yeah, no textbook theories today, just the reality. And I mean, let's just jump right into the first major theme, which is the whole bidirectional charging and V2G situation.
Oh man, the reality check on this one is intense because there is massive industry hype around bidirectional charging, right?
Yep.
But the on-the-ground reality is, well, it's a bit of a mess right now.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Just look at Hasib Hassan's recent post about that 500 million euro charger subsidy rolling out in Germany.
Right, the multi-party building one.
Yeah. So to get the premium 2,000 euro subsidy tier, developers have to install a certified bidirectional charger. Out of 168 products listed from 47 different manufacturers, Hassan found that exactly two...
Wait, two?
Just two they're actually certified to do the job. Ambibox and LADE. That's 2 out of 168.
That is frankly embarrassing for the sector. I mean, installing any of the other 166 products basically leaves you holding these incredibly expensive stranded assets.
Exactly. Which is why Hassan's advice was just to completely ignore the V2G hype for now and stick to the standard 1,500 euro subsidy tier. The industry is selling this, concept of bidirectional flow without preparing for the computing power you actually need to execute it securely.
Yeah, and Arne Schlowak and Dunstan Power both raised some pretty serious warnings this week about a looming 2027 hardware crisis.
Which most charge point operators are just completely ignoring right now.
Right. Let's unpack that crisis, actually, because it exposes a major misunderstanding. A lot of operators assume a charger is just like a smart electrical relay, like, oh, a new standard comes out, just push an over-the-air firmware update.
Right, like updating your iPhone.
Exactly. But Schlowak and Power are pointing out that true interoperability, the kind you need for a vehicle to securely trade energy with the grid, requires this highly specific cocktail of encrypted standards.
We are talking about ISO 115.1820. Interacting seamlessly with an OCPP 2.1 backend.
And tying all of that together is the requirement for MTLS 1.3 security certificates.
Yeah, and that's where the physical hardware fundamentally fails. Mm-hmm. Older AC chargers, and honestly, even a lot of the ones being bolted to walls today, they just lack the microprocessors to handle that cryptographic overhead.
Because of the continuous secure handshake protocols, right, to prevent grid hacking.
Exactly. You need significant edge computing headroom for that. A basic microcontroller from 2021 literally chokes on the math. You just cannot push a software update to a chip that physically lacks the processing power to decrypt the data.
Which creates this massive economic trust gap. Mark Moulton broke down the financial reality for early V2G adopters, and it's rough. Consumers are paying, a 700 to 900 euro premium for this bidirectional hardware.
Right.
But the actual grid arbitrage, like buying cheap overnight power and selling it back, is only netting them around 90 euros a year. The payback period stretches way past the warranty of the equipment itself.
Yeah, it's basically margin error. Alexander Miropolsky framed this perfectly, actually. He argued that V2G needs a Red Bull moment.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because Red Bull didn't win by calling itself a better cola, It invented the energy drink category.
Yeah.
Miropolsky says V2G is being marketed as just a premium feature on a standard charger, which guarantees it'll fail in the mainstream.
It has to be an entirely new category of home energy management.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's take a step back. If the hardware isn't ready, the standards are a mess. And it costs a huge premium for only 90 euros a year in return. Why should you, as an industry professional, even care right now? Like, why are the major OEMs pouring R&D capital into this sinkhole?
It's all about scale and specific use cases. Mm-hmm. Giovanni Palazzo and Jap Berger highlighted this huge move by Volkswagen and Elli. They're launching a V2G service by 2026, but the critical detail is the target.
Right. They're activating it for existing vehicles.
Nearly 1 million ME platform vehicles that are already on the road. By unlocking this backward, they instantly create one of the largest aggregated battery networks in Europe.
They're just brute forcing the standard by deploying the fleet first, daring the grid operators to catch up.
Yep. And Matthew Downey and Eduardo Guray have noted that the smartest immediate play isn't even vehicle to grid, it's vehicle to home, AC-based V2H.
Bypassing the wholesale energy markets entirely.
Exactly. Keep it behind the meter. Use it to run your own appliances during peak hours to lower your bills. You get immediate resilience without needing a master's degree in utility regulations.
Right. Keeping it behind the meter works for passenger vehicles, but let's bridge the gap here because heavy-duty and fleet charging are facing a completely different reality.
Oh, yeah. They can't hide behind the meter. Their energy demands are literally rewriting the physics of local grid distribution.
Frederick Zohm and Sven Stekhan shared an incredible milestone from Man's Spirity project. They successfully executed the world's first heavy truck V2G moment under real logistics conditions.
Pushing 325 kilowatts of power straight back into the grid from a single electric truck.
325 kilowatts. A whole residential neighborhood doesn't pull that much power, and M estimates this could slash fleet energy costs by 10 to 20%.
But fleets need guaranteed uptime, right? Which explains the data from Philippe Van Giel and Christian Hallelev. They showed that heavy-duty charging hubs across Europe are actually scaling faster than the adoption of electric trucks themselves.
Which is such an anomaly for this industry. The infrastructure is actually outpacing the vehicles.
It's an absolute prerequisite for commercial fleets, though. Stian Matheson shared how Norway is building a coherent electric truck network in the south using public-private capital ahead of demand.
And the power density of these nodes is just staggering. Henry Johnson noted that Belepuls just launched Germany's first public megawatt charging system network. They're using Alpatronic hardware capable of 1,000 kilowatts per plug.
1,000 kilowatts?
Okay, wait. A megawatt of power for one truck? That's like dropping a small factory's power demand onto a highway rest stop. How on earth does the grid handle a whole fleet doing that at once?
It doesn't. That's the issue. Rasmus Pasternak-Rosenbull pointed out that truck charging is a power problem, not an energy problem.
Right, because of the software.
Yes. Every fleet manager uses API-driven software to hunt for the cheapest overnight electricity prices. So if they all set their algorithms to charge at, say, 2.00 a.m., thousands of trucks hit the grid at the exact same millisecond.
So instead of using off-peak capacity, they're artificially generating these violent, hyper-localized grid congestion spikes.
Exactly. The legacy medium voltage grid just melts under that instantaneous thermal load.
Which means the CPOs have to step in. Nicholas Lurch argued that charge point operators must evolve into energy operators.
They have to. They're integrating massive battery energy storage systems, BS, directly into the hubs. So you trickle charge the battery from a standard grid connection all day, and when the truck arrives,
it just dumps the megawatt load from the battery buffer. It completely shields the local grid.
Right, and you bypass those multi-year utility upgrade approvals.
We're also seeing software optimizing existing infrastructure. Dr. Marcus Dick highlighted Depot Charge in Switzerland. It's a B2B marketplace where logistics companies share their private depot stations during idle hours.
Cutting operational costs by 20% without pouring any new concrete.
Exactly. And when you look globally, Deepak Chandran and Jacques Dionel brought up a fascinating point. Emerging markets in the Caribbean, Central America, and Africa, they are completely bypassing legacy grids.
Leapfrogging them entirely.
Right. Using solar plus off-grid BESS charging, they're driving costs down to near zero, like $2.50 to $4 per 100 kilometers.
Christopher Freud echoed that with South Africa. You combine high diesel costs with abundant solar, and it's the ideal setup for semi-autonomous microgrids.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It's exactly how developing nations completely skipped landline infrastructure and went straight to cell phones. But instead of phones, we're seeing entirely self-sufficient solar-powered truck stops.
It's the exact same dynamic, but bringing it back to the end user, whether it's an off-grid depot or just a suburban driveway, the final hurdle isn't really the technology anymore.
It's economics, policy, and user experience.
Exactly. Simon Smith had this brilliant post where he debunked range anxiety as merely a first kiss problem.
A first kiss problem. I love that.
Right. It's just an unfamiliarity that completely disappears once users realize their daily driving is mostly short, predictable trips.
The psychology shifts really fast when the economics hit your wallet. Michael Lohscheller contrasted the fading range anxiety with the very real pump anxiety in Sweden right now.
Oh, the cost difference is insane.
Yeah, SEK 1400 for diesel compared to a SEK 55 home charge for a Polestar 3. A 25-to-1 cost differential overrides any hesitation about plugging in a car.
But the massive economic shift is actually happening at the network operator level. Jens Rummer talked about the THG quote in Germany, their greenhouse gas mandate.
Which is rising to 65% by 2040.
Right. Oil companies are legally mandated to buy CO2 certificates. And because a heavy-duty truck displaces so much diesel, a single public truck charge generates 16.7 times the certificate value of a passenger car.
So you're not building a charging hub to make a 3-cent margin on electricity, you're building a compliance trading floor.
It's a localized factory producing highly lucrative regulatory credits.
And policy wins are finally unblocking the deployment side, too. Neil Langston and Andrew Bowles reported on this massive win in the UK. Local governments dropped the Streetworks permit fees for EV chargers from £1,000 down to just £45.
Which is huge. People don't realize that a £1,000 upfront fee per node completely destroys the ROI for deploying slow-charging lamppost units.
Dropping it to £45 overnight makes urban deployment actually viable.
But as the footprint expands, Chris Kaiser and Simon Vogt emphasized that CPOs really need to shift their focus to reliability.
Yeah, you can't just drop hardware in a parking lot, claim a subsidy, and vanish.
Exactly. Vogt's company, In Charge, just raised €5 million to physically verify and fix broken chargers using crowdsourced intelligence. Success isn't about ports deployed anymore. It's about successful sessions.
So putting all this together, what does this actually mean for you listening? If you're looking at the data from weeks 16 and 17, the clear signal is maturation. The Wild West era of deployment at all costs is over. We are firmly in the reliability, integration, and profitability phase.
Consider this: as vehicles become mobile, megawatt-scale energy storage units and off-grid microgrids become the norm, we might be witnessing the end of the traditional power grid as we know it. The vehicle isn't just transport anymore, it is the infrastructure.
Brought to you by Thomas Allgaier and Frenists. Wait, no, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Let me wrap this up properly. If you enjoyed this episode, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also check out our other editions on future mobility and market evolution, next-gen vehicle intelligence, and commercial fleet insights.
And a huge thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Definitely. Keep pushing the industry forward. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.